We're completing the trifecta of CNN panels today, as I like to use these as a way to cover a number of different topics that are being discussed from all different sides, as CNN does a great job of having 2 or 3 Republicans on each panel and using it to debunk some of the talking points that are used.
Point though, you made a really good point that there have been judges that shut down some of President Biden's executive actions, and they understand, the Biden administration understood
And he ignored
the
it.
checks and balances.
The Supreme Court tried to stop me, but they never will.
But not in the way that Donald Trump is.
Who said
Not
that?
in the way that
Joe
Donald
Biden.
Yeah,
Joe
but
Biden.
Donald Trump
Scott,
has-
he actually didn't ignore it.
He
That's
did.
right.
They continue to plow
No.
forward with student
No, he
aid. How
didn't.
much did
No,
they spend?
no,
No,
no.
Let me set the record
he
He
straight.
actually got dinged on
I
the student loan
hated
debt
the student
forgiveness.
Yeah.
student loan forgiveness policy.
What did he say
Hold
out
on.
loud?
I thought
What
it
did
was.
he say
I
out
thought it
loud?
was a
He
ridiculous
didn't
policy.
ignore it.
I thought it was unconstitutional. I predicted it would get struck down. It did get struck down, and I
didn't
applauded.
ignore it.
He did not ignore it, though. He went and tried under a different law.
So he ignored
You're
it.
allowed. No,
That's
that's
not ignoring it. That
So
is
he was
trying
not
to
ignoring
be-
it.
I had to start here because the same Republicans now pretending Trump defying federal courts is okay tried to lambaste Biden for doing the exact same thing. The only problem is they were lying about Biden doing it. Surprise, surprise. It's just somehow okay for Trump to actually do it, but wrong when MAGA pretends that Biden did it. Biden was blocked from using the HEROES Act, or overstepping the HEROES Act, I should say, to use a sweeping order to forgive $400 billion, no questions asked, in student loans immediately to anyone making under 6 figures. So I guess one question asked, right? The Supreme Court blocked this on the grounds that the Secretary of State under the Department of Education wasn't granted the power to forgive student loan debt under the scope of the HEROES Act. Essentially, that this was overstepping the scope of the HEROES Act. It didn't have anything to do with student loan, forgiveness or repayments or how these things are structured. Joe Biden's Department of Education then created the SAVE Plan, which is within the bounds of the Department of Education under the Higher Education Act of 1965. This is a repayment plan. Repayment plan is important here, that allows a path to forgiveness, which is, by the way, already normalized. We already, even before the SAVE plan, most of our student loan our student loan repayment plans forgive the debt after 25 years. That has already been the norm. The SAVE plan takes this from 25 years, makes it to 10 years for those making under 6 figures. It also lowers the monthly payments that you're going to pay rather than some immediate blanket forgiveness. This is well within the scope of the Department of Education. It's a completely different action using a different law, and it's completely constitutional, unlike what Trump is doing, which is just saying, I don't like what the judge is telling me to do, so I'm just going to do it anyway.
I totally
You just
disagree.
can't compel the executive branch to spend the dollars. You can't do that. They can't say we're going to start. The
Have
judges
you
are going to
heard
start
of
writing
the
the checks. They have every right
impoundment?
to
Have you
hold
heard
that.
of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974?
No.
Okay, well, let me play this. let me play
And by the
this.
way, none of your viewers have
Okay,
either.
well, I'm gonna.
Gotta love how elected Republicans, the party of law and order, literally don't know the law. Why do I know more about the law than this guy? They're absolutely banking on you not knowing the law either, which is why they do so well with their base, because their base absolutely doesn't know the law. That way they don't know how wildly illegal and unconstitutional the things they're doing is. I, however, will not allow you to live in such ignorance. The Impoundment Control Act is what swiftly lays all budget authority with Congress. Congress already had and still has the power to create and approve a budget and to appropriate funds in a budget. But the Impoundment Control Act went a step further from that to state that any withholding of funds from this budget by the president, where he receives the budget from Congress, if he decides to withhold this or withhold this or withhold this, also has to be approved by Congress. The executive cannot withhold funds from the budget without congressional approval. They must be taken directly to Congress immediately to be voted on before being withheld, none of which Trump has done, by the way, which means he's clearly acting outside the bounds of the law, outside the bounds of his power as executive, and he's doing so with an unelected bureaucrat who happens to be the richest man in the world, who is hiring 19-year-old Nazis. And once again, an attempt to overthrow our democracy that we were told by MAGA we were crazy for pretending he would attempt to do again, or even did the first time.
Trump administration says to Congress, you created this agency. We're going to just decide it doesn't exist anymore.
He runs the executive branch. He can decide who works for the executive
So
branch. He can decide
where
who
does
doesn't.
this end? So
It doesn't.
Congress creates an agency, the executive says, to heck with it. Congress appropriates money, the executive branch says, to heck with it. Where does this end?
So it ends. you can go back and I like what they're doing, and they're going to whiteboard these programs out, and they're going to force each of these departments to come back and actually justify their existence, which no one in Washington has done for decades. If you want NIH money to go forward, explain to me why, how, and how it's going to be spent.
All right, so the next
That's all. They're
Democratic
going to
president
force
who
them to
says
the table.
ICE is going to just disappear, I expect that the two of you will say that sounds
I think all of them.
Right. I mean, if a Democrat wants to disband ICE or Homeland Security, all of a sudden Republicans would understand the sanctity of protecting agencies and not allowing the executive to have this power. They ride with this stuff when it benefits them. Here's another one for you of these laws I'm sure no MAGA knows because they don't actually care or know about the law. The Administrative Procedure Act, right? This enables Congress to be the ones who has to vote on substantial changes to federal agencies. This would include disbanding them or massively changing their protocols. And as we talked about with the Impoundment Control Act, their funding also lies with Congress, which means every facet of what Trump is doing right now is illegal, unconstitutional, undemocratic, un-American, and unpatriotic. It's an attempted coup of our government systems. The people who stormed the Capitol because Trump lied to them would be justified to storm the Capitol for this. But they won't, because it's their guy doing it. And it's, again, he's doing this all in the name of furthering foreign influence from within our government. This is all for Russia. The Putin pill that MAGA took 8 years ago must be strong as an ox, because they are still hyped up on that.